Ashkan Karbas-Rushan, or just Ash for short. I'm the CEO of WatchMojo.com, and I write a few articles for MediaPost and TechCrunch and whatnot. WatchMojo is a producer and distributor of infotainment content. What I've tried to do on this panel is basically assemble, let's say, the full cycle. So we have a marketer, we have someone from the ad agency world, we have someone in the production and curation world, as well as someone in the world of analytics and ad networks. So I'm just going to have everyone introduce themselves for a few seconds, give an overview of what they do, and then we'll just dive in. Cool?
Great. I'm Hillary Townsend. I'm the manager for strategic partnerships and social marketing for Bluefly.com. So I can manage all of our lovely branded content, as well as any sort of strategic partnerships or offline integrations that we might do.
My name is Paul Katonis. I'm the VP Group Director of Brand Content at Digitas. In a group known as the Third Act, we handle all the content programs that the Digitas, the agency, gets involved with. And I also work with the International Academy of Web Television as the chairman of the board.
I'm Lance Podell. I work at YouTube, and I work in what's called the YouTube Next Lab, which is working with new and evolving creators in the YouTube environment to help them build real businesses on YouTube.
I'm Brett Wilson. I'm co-founder and CEO of TubeMogul, and we're a video advertising company. And generally, we have a set of services to help advertisers get their videos watched and tracked.
Excellent. So let's start off with the first round of softball questions, and then we could grill you guys. So first off, Hillary, as the marketer, could you just explain to us from your vantage point what the role and the value of video, online video in particular, is in the broader marketing mix?
Sure. Bluefly is, for those of you who don't know, is an online retailer of high-end products on trend, added value. So we actually rely pretty heavily on video. We've done, for a variety of reasons, for brand engagement, for brand building, and also for customer acquisition. So we've done everything from behind the scenes at fashion shows to partner videos to blogger videos. But our really most unique and sort of most successful campaign to date, and one that's still ongoing, is a series we produced called Closet Confessions. It takes shoppers and users behind the scenes inside the closets of style influencers. So to date, we launched last year. We've shot 14 different branded videos. They're very editorial. They really don't mention Bluefly more than they're kind of just like, we're sponsoring these great videos and presenting this to our audience. So we've shot everyone from Nikki Hilton to Johnny Weir to Bethany Frankel to Joan Rivers. I've seen a lot of very interesting closets over the past year. And that's actually how I came to know Ash, and that we did syndicate the videos, not just on our own site, but through a variety of networks, through WatchMojo, through YouTube, and then also some high-impact online units. And what we really found by far was that the videos the video content in a distribution network and in a syndication network really drove traffic in a way that traditional display media or even press didn't drive. Social promotion was also huge for these videos, and I think that kind of speaks to the power of this content. We chose people who had really great social currency, really high Twitter follower count, really high Facebook fan count. And the first several weeks of the program, Twitter and Facebook were 25% of our traffic. So it's the idea that the content is so engaging, you want to share, and it's not just an ad that you're passing on. And it still is one of our, consistently one of our top traffic sources. The program was actually so successful that we then took it to a broadcast level, cut 45 seconds of the spots, and ran them on Bravo TV. And that's imminently trackable for us. We're able to look at our page views per second, see how that is impacted by a commercial at any given moment. I spend a lot of late nights looking at graphs, watching this page view spike go up. And what we see with this, the more engagement the content is, the quicker the page view spikes increase. And then the next week we'll see a huge spike in new visitors, and that's followed by new customers. So for us, we really do feel like the branded content piece is a true, not just acquisition driver, but sales driver for us. So it's been a great learning the past year or so.
You touch on many points. We're going to come back to a few of them, including the relative value of an online viewer with a broadcast viewer, but also the decision to leave the Bluefly excessive branding out.
Yeah.
But first, let's shift gears and move down to Paul. Paul, you work at one of the larger agencies out there in like a new unit to talk about branded content. So there's a lot of buzz around video. The consumer adoption is there. But I mean, how internally, how much resistance do you get to start putting money against video? And internally, is it like a no-brainer? And then how do you pitch it to clients? Do you have clients who come to you? Just take us through that process.
I think as an agency, content became a couple of years ago so this kind of snazzy thing to offer up to the different brands, and we're starting to see that, and it was treated very much like an add-on, like a bolt-on. Oh, we should be doing some kind of content, and we should have a web series, and we should get involved in those kinds of things. And that switched from a bolt-on to the overall strategy to actually part of how we view the agency as a core capability of the agency. So right now, when we scope a team to work on every project, there's a marketing person, a media person, and creative person, and content person sitting on every team right from the get-go, whether or not a web series will be created. So I think our approach now is starting to change in that we're seeing it not as a nice little creative thing that you add on, but really core to the communication strategy for that brand and how to use content to reach consumers in bigger and better ways. So it's gone from being a nice thing to have as really a necessary part of the brand's communications. And we look at it from the aspects of what original content they're going to get involved in, what are they going to co-create, what are they going to curate, what are the users going to create, and how do we take all that content together, surround it with the advertising, right? So the advertising doesn't really go away. And in fact, we found some of our best results when we do an original series that has the brand integrated as a hero of the piece, but it's not called the, I don't know, the Kraft cheese show, right? It's just part of the show. And then we put a pre-roll against that and then distribute and syndicate that out. We found actually the best brand lift and consumer purchase intent rises that we could ever have. So we're starting to see how it fits better in the mix and becomes more of a viable option.
Lance, you were part of the team that built Next New Networks into a content creation, curation, aggregation machine. YouTube and Google bought you guys for your expertise in helping content creators. You're now playing a big part at YouTube, and YouTube is the #1 platform. What advice do you have for the audience, which is largely filled up of content creators, to become successful on YouTube, which is like the make or break platform, so to speak, for content creators?
It's a big question. I think the couple of quick points. One, you really need to be building for the environment and creating for the environment. YouTube isn't other video sources, and it certainly isn't TV, and I think there's a real need to recognize that this is a community-based viewing experience. So everything from the annotations you might add, to the likes and dislikes you're going to get, to the request of your viewers to get involved in your programming, give you their points of view about what they are indeed watching, and then ask them to even give you input or even their own videos to incorporate into what you're doing. The folks that create recognizing its community seem to win. The other thing I would add is personalities matter. So unlike, and I want to say this carefully, unlike television, the television often, while we watch celebrities and we're very consumed with the celebrities in the show is really why you choose one program versus another. It's what the humor is, the drama is, what the storyline is in the show. In the case of YouTube, while your topic is critical, so is your host, or so is the person that is indeed the voice or spokesperson of the show. And that's a critical success factor for people that are looking to create in this environment. Talking heads matter here.
Good stuff. Brett, you sit on a vast amount of data in terms of what is popular and whatnot. Could you give us like a 30,000-foot perspective on what works in terms of video online? What is popular, and how does a content producer maximize their reach?
Yeah, when we started, we had this content syndication service where you could upload a video once to us and then super syndicate it to one or all of the video and social networking sites out there in one fell swoop. Lance and Next New Networks used it, Paul used it, Ash used it. And it was a way just to get your video out there. And the notion was, well, people are finding video kind of wherever they are online, so you might as well get your videos in front of them. And a few years ago, if you super syndicated your video, you would on average kind of double your viewership. And over the years, that phenomenon's just gone away. super syndication is not quite dead, but most of the views that you're going to get out there just by seeding your content everywhere is going to be on YouTube. So syndication, and I think we know because we kind of invented it along with Next New Networks, it's an incremental. It's not going to help you build up a lot of views anymore. And then meanwhile, on the advertiser side, you've got a market where there's not enough premium content. So most premium publishers, they're actually sold out of video, and that's the video that the advertisers want. They want to run a pre-roll in video that you know. So for kind of normal non-TV publishers, that begs the question: how do you really create a business out of this? And I think Hillary touched on it, where a lot of the best advertisers, they're now creating ads where the ad it's the content, and they're syndicating their content where people may actually choose to click play on the ad. Google says that by 2015, half of all ads may be click to play. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for people that are publishers, that are producing content, to kind of pivot their business models to help advertisers that are moving from shrunken TV commercials online to actually creating kind of real made-for-the-web ads.
So, Hillary, you touched on the fact that when you created the Closet Confessions series, and it's true, there's not a single mention of Bluefly.
Right.
So we'll start with you, but I mean, this applies to everyone. Paul, you deal with this probably every day. Lance, you guys did some great work, I think, for Verizon with the $99 music video and Amex and stuff. And Brett, I mean, I know you touch on a lot of relationships with marketers. So start off with you, Hillary, but everyone should jump in on this. What is the decision-making process like? How do you decide, do we have any mention of the brand, no mention of the brand, excessive mention of the brand? Take us through that discussion. What is the best practice?
You know, I mean, I think for us, we made the strategic decision pretty early on in the process. This was going to be an editorial. We wanted to make really engaging content that is presented by Bluefly. So we have a title card, we have an end card. You know, but we really wanted to sort of be the brand that provides this kind of content, because we recognized that our audience was eager for this content and they were hungry to get behind the scenes. And this is a great way to sort of show that, you know, Bluefly has that affinity too. We were sort of, you know, we were able to sort of piggyback on the people we profiled in these videos to really gain additional brand credibility, but also to create a brand personality that is engaging, familiar, fun, quirky, irreverent. There were challenges in selling the idea to a lot of people that it was not going to be promotional. But I think you know as a user, you know as a watcher, when someone is incessantly, you know that on American Idol, this Diet Coke is a Diet Coke can, not necessarily because Randy Jackson loves Diet Coke, but because...
No way.
I mean, I hope I'm not shattering any illusions here. But so it was a deliberate process, and we were fortunate also that the people we were profiling actually happened to have the brands that we sell in their closet. So we did have a little bit of sort of subtle, subliminal promotion of our brands within those videos, but it was not forced, and it was very organic and very natural.
I think for us, we always focus on the value of the content. What is the purpose of that content? And we've done stuff with Honey. We have a new series out with Honey Bunches of Oats called Honey and Bunches, and it's about two women who work at a Honey Bunches of Oats factory, and they're named Honey and Bunches, and it's like in a very classic sitcom kind of style. Very cheesy, very kind of funny. Brand is absolutely everywhere. To something where we work with Paula Dean and create a series called Real Women of Philadelphia that engages with mothers and women in general, just to upload recipes with Philadelphia cream cheese, and then they can co-create content with her. We're finding that if there's actual value, you could go pretty far with how much the brand is involved. And if we just left it up to the brands, they would make long-form commercials, is what they would do. So it's the balance between how much the brand is in there and how much value. But without value to the content, you do not earn an audience, you do not earn engagement, you do not earn anything respectful, and you have to use paid media to do absolutely everything. So it's for us, it's a constant struggle. But we've swung the pendulum pretty far, and it's still made it be successful.
You know, I think that the brand's inclusion in the programming has to really tie to the brand's ability to mean a brand's area of expertise, and whether the brand can carry off knowledge of whatever it is the program's about. So for example, in the case of BlueFly, it's a perfect example of what they're about, and it makes sense that they would be presenting a program based on it. And I don't know what Hillary didn't say, but whether or not it says that it's presented by BlueFly, I assume it does, right?
It does. It's
right.
almost like a movie, sort of like the beginning
Right.
credits of a movie.
Right.
So it's, you know, BlueFly presents.
That's right, and that's how, and we do a lot of things, we've done a lot that way. You mentioned Verizon and American Express. We've done programs for both Verizon and American Express, and the idea is to show you have to pick a topical area that has resonance with the brand and attracts the audience to believe you might be expert enough in that brand to share something like that, to be in somebody's closet. In our case, in the case of Verizon, it was really, the deal we did with them was about high speed. And they wanted to demonstrate high speed, and their philosophy was there was no better way to share high speed than through music. So we presented bands live by them, and that made sense with the logic of the brand. In the case of American Express, it was the small business card, and we were doing exposés on small business owners and what their tricks of the trade were and how come they were able to really build businesses. So that looked like a leveraged value add from American Express to have the person, you know, whip out their American Express card every time and they'll say, and look, this is how we got there, is so gratuitous. And in a world of, you know, I tease all the time that my kids have grown up in such a different world than I did. I went to college, got my Good Stuff box with my Atra razor in it, and I still use it to this day because somebody told me that's what I was supposed to use. And I still, to this day, literally have some version or other of those razor blades, for those of you that remember the Good Stuff box. And my kids have a very different approach to the brand, which is that the brand isn't your brand, the brand is my brand. I'm developing the brand with you, marketer, and I am a part of the process, not to be spoken to, but to be included in the development of that brand. So if we take a world now in which we are speaking to you, it's no longer considered relevant or real. And that has changed dramatically how marketers have to think about their messaging and how related they need to be to the programming, but how not in your face they need to be about the programming. That's very, very different than, you know, 20 years ago, or more when I got my Good Stuff box.
I think some people would listen to this and they would agree with everything, but they wouldn't be sure it matters because branded content is such a niche. The lion's share of video advertising is a video before another video, where you can easily take your 15 or your 30-second TV spot and you can scale it. Like branded content, one you have to develop made for the web content, and then you've got to scale it. And both those things are hard to do. One thing that's coming is ad units, and YouTube has one. It's called True View, and I think it's really cool. It's a video before another video, the pre-roll, but you can skip it, and the advertiser only pays if the viewer doesn't skip the unit itself, and they're doing that with longer form content as well. So as these new ad units are propagated, and I think as viewers, we're going to appreciate that because pre-rolls can be pretty annoying. Then all of a sudden, the traits that make good branded content become applicable to the larger video advertising market as well. So.
Nothing like getting turned off.
Yeah.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
to learn your lesson.
Right.
Well, okay, you touch on the next point, so which is the whole pre-roll scale. TV is huge. Everybody keeps talking about $70 billion US annual advertising on television. Search is huge. How do we get any kind of that money, siphon it away to online video? Is that a dream? Anybody can jump in here. Like, how does that actually happen, or are we going after the wrong thing?
Let me jump in, and obviously anybody else can. But you know, for me, this is what the most frustrating if I had to pick the most frustrating point of our entire industry, it would be that. I think it's really simple. The audience has to be here, right? And if the audience is here, then the money is going to be here, and the audience is here. And the most frustrating point for me is there's a very simple rule. If the audience is there, you need to be there. And if the audience is paying attention and engaged, even more the reason you need to be there, and shame on you if you're not. We have plenty of studies that show how viewers are much more engaged online than they are with television. In fact, I've sponsored some of that research before I was at YouTube with YouTube and a third party called Magid Research. And indeed, viewers are here and they're engaged. They even have more ways to engage, physically involved and being engaged. And yet marketers have marketers are it's like turning the tides, right? I mean, it's a very slow going process. But it's a real missed opportunity, because what I find so interesting is, what I find fascinating, and this is just now me blathering, so anybody, but I just find it fascinating that all of these marketers, the senior most marketers, all have kids. And these brand managers all have kids, and they watch their kids, and their kids do not engage at all the way they engage, period, with any screen. My oldest is 14, and my 14-year-old just has a very different, my 6-year-old has a very different vantage point, although she matters less at this point. But my 14-year-old is getting pretty damn close to mattering, to being that 18, the first group where you start to really care about when decisions are made. And it matters how he views content. It doesn't matter how I view content. It doesn't matter what screen I watch and how I watch screens. And yet marketers, even with children, seem to react to, I'm more comfortable this way. What's fascinating to me is that it has taken that next generation of marketers to even enter the companies. The brand, the junior brand person now saying, I'm sorry, you don't know what Twitter is, really? Okay, well, let me show you in the company. And all of a sudden, by the way, you're getting promoted just because you know what Twitter is, and you look good because you make a presentation in front of the senior brand manager. It's pretty mortifying, right? That would be the way. You don't need to know and use everything to know how the next generation of people behave. So for me, the biggest frustration is that TV is indeed an aging population. It's evidentiary. We know it's true. And we know that the younger audiences are here and telling and showing us their engagement, and yet marketing dollars haven't turned. And I think what's so ironic about that for me is that I remember being in this business in the very early days in like 1993, when there was just talk of the web at that point. And the one thing that everybody was worried about was that there wouldn't be sight, sound, and motion. And TV created emotions, whether it was laughing or crying, and those were the two that people most spoke of, and I spent a lot of time doing television advertising prior. And what ended up happening was we went to this very analytical place for the web because we couldn't get sight, sound, and motion to work. So we got all about results and all about analytics. But now, 20 years later, right, we have sight, sound, and motion ad nauseum on the web. With video is the largest evolving platform on the web, and even Facebook and Twitter are incorporating video into everything that's happening on those platforms. So now we have everything that people have asked for, and we have the audience. So somebody tell me why it's not there. I can't see it. I don't get it.
I'll tell you, from the agency perspective, we're seeing that shift.
Yeah,
it's starting to finally happen. We produce an event every year called the New Front. It's a digital upfront event where we bring all our brands in and bring them the content opportunities, basically. This will be the 4th year. This year the theme is Pipe Dreams to Pipe Reality. And one of the main focuses in there is how the budgets are starting to shift to online content and the development of original content. You call it niche, we call it our future, because as an agency, representing now, we've been American Express's agency for 30 years. We're Delta's agency. So we're talking about the media dollars now for Delta, Amex, Kraft, Miller, P&G, geez, I'm forgetting all the other ones, sorry. Whirlpool, Comcast, Samsung. We are seeing massive shifts of dollars from traditional TV expenditures to online content. We're starting to see that real demand for how do we engage with our customers in a way that we cannot do on TV. And we're starting to see that that's the way that the brands are starting to recognize when they see their kids in particular, because the bottleneck for us is all at the media planners level, where it's easy, you just do what you did last year and just keep with the same metrics. We're starting to see that then now there's a willingness to start moving those dollars after the tests are done. Once the feet are dipping in the pool at this point, and we have a very big initiative at a Viviki level. We're part of the Publicis group at the Viviki level called The Pool. We're starting to see that once everyone dips into the pool from a brand side, the shift starts to happen. And we see cultural shifts. I mean, just looking at Kraft alone, the whole organization now is shifting large sections of their dollars to content-related initiatives and online video, recognizing that there's so much more that can be done and the response is so much greater. So I think we're at a very pivotal moment where the tools are in place, the scale is in place, that was severely lacking.
Yeah.
How to buy it, it's still bought,
yeah.
the measurement side, and how to buy it, it's still bought very media-centric. It's still bought on an impression basis, but it's moving that way.
I want to disagree, just to keep it fun.
Keep this interesting
Sure,
for
of
one
course.
thing.
So the largest advertisers in the world, their objective is scale. They need to reach a lot of people at once. The history of doing that is interrupting something. And first of all, video advertising, it's doing great. It's growing 40% a year. So it's not like this shift's not happening. But the problem is it's a lack of premium content. And again, there's kind of two economies. Anybody producing Hollywood TV style content, their videos online, they're totally sold out, and they're selling those at huge CPMs, $30, $40, $50, $60, $70. And I think the upfronts is what, this week or next. Increasingly, they're just going to package their digital video into their TV buys as well. And I think what's going to happen there is the studios, they're going to bring more shows online, and they'll probably fill them with more ad load. So right now, there's only kind of 1 or 2 spots in a full episode online. That's going to change, and that's going to create more inventory for those advertisers, and that will continue to be where the big dollars shift.
So Hillary, I know you want to say something. I just have to respond to that quickly. I just have to say that is exactly my point, is that you've defined premium in a way that 50-year-olds define premium.
Yeah.
20-year-olds could care less that premium is Modern Family. Right? It's just not how they view the world. My kids, and this is our show, so it's a bad example, but it's true. My kids are the coolest kids in town because their dad works at a company that created the series Key of Awesome. And to every single kid their age, Key of Awesome is premium. And I went skiing this winter and ended up on the slopes and heard 2 kids saying, no, that's your favorite episode of Key of Awesome? Really? Because mine's this. It wasn't Modern Family they were talking about, it was Key of Awesome.
I just don't
So
see
premium
that.
is, again, in the eyes of this brand marketer that has to look at something the way they have, but not how people view buying decisions anymore.
But Lance, the people making the buying decisions are 24-year-old media buyers. It's not like they're 50.
Yeah, but they're just reproducing the plans.
They're
they've
making
already seen.
mistakes.
They're just redoing stuff. They're not actually influencing those plans. They're just taking whatever was being done before and re-implementing it at the new, again, something, you can look at it up at Newfront, thenewfront.com is where the program will be. You know, we're bringing in front of all these brands that I talked about, we're bringing half of them are people that built up their audience on YouTube. And to us, they're just as important as Isabella Rossellini's new project or Discovery's new project, or we don't have NBC represented there, we don't have ABC, we don't have CBS. We've got people who've actually got genuine audiences that are coming from all different types of backgrounds on how they're producing that content. And
But
so,
if you're a media buyer, the last thing you want to do is take a brand that's taken billions of dollars to create and put it in front of a show that no one's heard of, and it's hard to buy because there's no scale.
but it's not a show you haven't heard of.
Yeah, you haven't heard of.
You haven't
That's
heard
my
of it.
point. And I don't know how old you
Yeah.
are, but I know that I'm irrelevant now. Right?
Yeah.
I know I'm
Yeah,
47
I'm
and totally
kidding.
irrelevant.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not the buying population any longer, but the people that aren't buy. I know if you want to get in front of my kid, you'd better be on Xbox and you'd better be on their computer screen or their laptop. And TV is one of many screens on in their room at any given time, and their phone. And they're not watching. They watch Modern Family for 22 minutes, and then the next thing they might watch is a 4-minute episode of Key of Awesome. And so in the next 3 years, when we see all of this in one place, you're going to see 22 minutes and 3 minutes and 9 minutes and 14 minutes and 44 minutes, and it's all going to be mushed up into one experience.
I think that may become more popular, but there's going to be high CPMs for content that everybody knows. And then there's going to be lower CPMs for people that just want to get a message watch that aren't as picky about the context of where their ads are. But context matters. That's why luxury brands advertise in print. And it's not like that notion of advertising is going to change. It's not. You want to be around things that are important and big.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I actually kind of agree with both of you. I mean, I'm fortunate in that I have a very forward-thinking senior management team that is willing to put dollars towards online content and then actually use the success of online content to merit whether we go broadcast. So I do agree that the way people are consuming media has changed, and what is a valuable property is really a subjective idea right now. But what we are seeing also is that, you know, people are engaging with television with their mobile phones out, watching, you know, with Get Glue now, which is a new service that you can actually, it's basically like Foursquare but for media, so you can check in while you're watching Modern Family. You have your laptop out, and we can actually see when you watch, when their commercial is airing on Bravo, for example, we do see an immediate spike in traffic to our website. So it's not people leaving what they're doing to go to the website, it's that laptop was in their lap.
Anyway,
that
right.
They were on Facebook already.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it's very much, it's to your point, it is disruptive still, but I think it's also, we're so used to being disruptive, and we're so used to everything kind of being, you know, everything is on all the time. That
Right.
I think there is still value in television, but I do think that it's, you know, it has to be coupled with what's happening online in order to really reap
Right,
those
and how
benefits.
cool is it going to be when Blue Fly is in all of those places, knowing you're sitting in bed watching TV on your laptop with your phone out in your TV, and they're coordinating that message across all of those.
Right.
Because that's really where we're headed, and then it won't, and that CPM could become blended, right? Or
Exactly.
the CPM is a different, maybe it's, you know, the world of CPM is a bit outdated too, in my opinion, so maybe it's something different that somebody smarter than I am is going to come up with.
Absolutely.
But that's where we're headed, so this discussion is going to get outdated because you're going to see everybody in every place because it's going to be the same, you're going to buy one way across these things because that's how people are viewing it.
I love that exchange. I could have like left the room, gotten a sandwich. It was good. Okay, so I want to stick on that to some extent. Is the pre-roll like the pop-up, which is going to disappear because it is intrusive, and I like Brett's point that the history of any effective advertising has been intrusive to some extent? Or is the pre-roll actually the 30-second spot, which is going to be the dominant thing that is going to garner the dollars? So anybody can dive in here. What is the pre-roll's future? Is it somber, or is that the leading thing?
For us, it's the leading piece. It's still there. We're seeing great response from it when it's paired with branded content. We see the highest. We test branded content on its own, we test pre-roll on its own, then we test pre-roll and branded content, we get the highest lifts across the board on it. So for us, it's part of the package, it's necessary. 15 and 30-second pre-rolls. We're obviously playing around with things like TrueView and selecting. There's so many really fun technologies on you select the next part of the video, or do you want to watch another one, or do you want to get more info, or do you want a coupon, you know, all these kind of things. We test them all, and there's so many variations of it that I think it's just going to be there and stay there and work.
I think what happens is that the pre-roll is going to be around a long time, but the pricing mechanism will change. I talked about this earlier. It's going to go from the advertiser paying a CPM for every impression to the advertiser only paying when the viewer chooses to consume with their brand message.
Hey Brett, would you call that a cost per view model?
Yeah, and I mean, we don't benefit from cost per view, we just believe in it. I personally think 30-second pre-rolls especially are incredibly annoying. In addition to this skippable unit that I talked about earlier, you're also gonna start to see more videos load where you'll see a slate at the bottom of the video player, and there'll be 3 different video ads that you can choose from. So it's still an ad, but the viewer is going to have more say in what they want to consume.
Are we crazy with all of this sort of empowering of the consumer? Click over ads, don't watch them. Don't put your brand in the ad because you want it to be informational. I mean, are we running the risk that we are going to actually make advertising, which has always been some kind of push or pull mechanism, ineffective? Like, is this like a hippie mentality that is going to lead us to actually not like shrink the advertising industry, or is this absolutely going to grow the pie? Is there any risk, basically? Because it sounds a bit crazy. Like if somebody was, you know, entering in a time-space machine from like the 1950s or 60s, they would be like, you guys are crazy. No?
Look at display. You could still buy, there's still a very large display market for CPM buying and just buying impressions. Even though you've been able to buy cost per click for how long, people still buy on an impression basis. So I think it just will continue. You'll be able to buy it all different ways. So I don't think we're going to kill ourselves by what we're doing. I think we're bringing in more variety, and as these guys were saying, that the CPM is going to become very variable, whether it's a blended model you could buy, or it's a premium when someone, on a cost per view basis, when somebody actually selected it, where you know there's engagement, or cheaper run-of-the-mill, just dumb impressions out there.
The innovation is being driven by advertisers too. It's not like it's being driven by hippies in Berkeley. That's where Two Mogul's from. So the innovation's happening because those ad formats are a better way to deliver a brand message. When a consumer chooses to consume your brand message, they remember it better. So that's what's happening.
We have a lot of content owners. We do want to talk a bit about monetization. We have a lot of content owners in the room. You see traditional media companies putting up paywalls. Is there any hope of consumers paying for content, whether it's articles or videos? That's half the question. The other half is, as content owners, do they have a right or do they have a shot at getting publishers to pay for the content, like in some kind of licensing fee? Or are they just shooting? I want to just touch base a bit on that. Like, is it all going to be ad supported? Are consumers ever going to pay? What are your thoughts? And should you hold out? Like, we've had success to tell, like we told MySpace in 2008, we're not going to give you the content. You got to pay us $10,000 a month to access our catalog. And I thought they would laugh at me, and they said, we can't do 10, we'll do 5.
Well, that was easy, because every month there was a new MySpace guy you had to deal with, so it's really easy.
No, it was one guy. But I'm just saying, a lot of the folks in the audience want to know what. So I'm expected to put my content out there, mortgage my house. How the hell am I going to make money? So are there any other models, or is it really only going to be ad supported?
Well, if on your paywall, first thing, I forget who had said it, but this is not my original idea. When using a paywall, you put your absolute best content free and available for everybody, and you take your most niche content that has very specific smaller audiences. That's what you put behind the paywall, because people have a real desire and can't find that everywhere. But the overall best of, so I think there's a place for paywalls if done correctly. I'm liking what I'm seeing on the original content side of the world. So separated away from brand content for a second. Sorry, sorry, Lance.
That's right.
Separate from brand content for a second. We're starting to see companies like Crackle, My Damn Channel, Paramount Digital having absolutely amazing success with original content. Using various windowing strategies, making it ad supported, then moving it to different platforms, doing licensing deals, putting it into different formats, doing theatrical releases. You look at the LXD as a great example. That has had some pretty wonderful returns on the original investment that was spent. It's a series with John Chu, an original series called The League of Extraordinary Dancers. So starting to see that come about is very exciting. And I think there are more and more opportunities for an independent creator. It's starting to look more like independent film, if those of you are familiar with the independent film world and how you finance a production and get independent distribution. People are buying stuff, people are licensing things, you just have to, they're starting to come up more and more.
I think there will indeed be paid content. I think it's just a price-value equation, right? I mean, it's about, for a marketer to say, I want you to pay to see me tell you something about my brand isn't going to happen.
Right.
But if, this isn't the best example, but you mentioned Kraft, I think, before, so it was in my head. If Kraft wants to give you, Kraft has two choices. They can, give you access to all sorts of recipes in the hopes that you'll continue to buy Kraft cheese, which is likely, or companies that provide a deeper level of knowledge, and potentially Kraft, can give you access to something you otherwise wouldn't have access to. I don't know, mac and cheese recipe that's been their mainstay forever. And you might want to pay for that because you have a need for it, there's a value to you that's defined for something you need in your life at that moment, you'll pay. I think all the time about all the advice services on the web. You have a question, you go online, you try to get your question answered, and there's somebody that's willing to charge you. And I have definitely had times when customer service is closed, and I want to know the answer to a question about my phone that's not working again. And indeed, I'm going to pay for it, because I have a need right then, there's a value in my life, and I'm going to pay for it. And I think there are things like Consumer Reports where I am about to make a big purchase that costs a lot of money to add on an incremental buck or two to get value that's going to make that larger decision smarter. Absolutely, I'm going to continue to pay. Does that mean I'm going to start to pay for entertainment? No. But I do believe you are going to pay, and we will all continue to pay for information that has some price value equation that has a need in our life. And I think those models coexist very nicely.
I think to your point, it's also, you can expand the definition of a paywall as well. It's not necessary, it doesn't have to be I'm giving you $1 for this content.
Right.
I mean, for me, it's, fan gating can be you can look at that as a paywall, and it does generate revenue in the long term for you, and it generates an immediate lift in followers and acquisitions and engagements. So maybe it's, there's a great piece of content that is public on the web, but if you really want to see behind the scenes, you want to see the nitty gritty, then like us on Facebook, or complete this task, sign up for email, and all of those things ultimately do lead to monetization.
Yep.
So I think
that's right.
I think there is space for a quote unquote paywall, but I think it's
the paywalls may be different. They may look different for different things.
Change the idea of what a paywall really is.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. A really good point.
So we're going to play a little experiment here. Don't say oh, and then we're going to open it up to questions. So it's lightning round. I'm going to say something or something. You can only pick one of those two things and one word. So I'm going to ask a few of these. First one, what is more important, content or distribution? One word, you can only pick one. Start, Hillary.
Well, I'm biased. I'm going to say content.
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 Interesting. Next, what is
or
more...
not so.
Sorry?
Or not so interesting, since we all seem to have the same answer.
Yeah, no, but I'm surprised. I'm a content guy, and I sometimes think that it's like, I'm going to cheat here.
Distribution's irrelevant without good content, so I think,
Second one, what is more important? The content, now if you're the advertiser, what is more important? The content or the audience? That's not the same question as distribution. Like, do you target based on content or the audience?
Who are you? The vantage point is the advertiser?
Yeah, like you're an advertiser. Okay. Do you care to target by content or by the audience demo? Hillary?
Audience. Content is fantastic and wonderful, but I think if you're speaking to yourself, you're doing yourself a disservice. So I think you do have to look at the audience who you're trying to speak to, and hopefully that's a new audience that's opening up and bringing to your brand.
I would say audience because it's easier to scale up focusing on an audience than sometimes on specific content.
Audience.
Content, because content's a proxy for audience and it's easier to buy. So.
Interesting. Okay. What is more important? Quality or scale? And reach, basically. Like quality or reach?
Quality.
I can't use the word depends, huh?
No, depends is not.
And this is from an advertiser perspective?
You work all of this out, and I'm going to ride your answer. Go ahead. I'm as stuck as you are. You
I'm
go.
stuck on this one. Can I pass?
No pass.
All right,
Really?
reach. Reach, it's scale and reach.
Okay. Lance?
Reach.
Quality.
Last question. If you are the advertiser, do you want to work with the content creator, producer, or the distribution, the aggregator that has the eyeballs? You can only pick one. Who do you prefer to work with?
I don't understand the question. Sorry.
Whether you're doing branded content or you're saying, I want to slap a pre-roll next to this content, do you prefer working with the content producer or do you prefer working with the aggregator?
Well, it's hard because for me, it's content producer is an internal thing. So for me, the aggregator, because I would want to, we have this content, we're going to try to find the best audience for it.
Aggregator.
Aggregator.
You have to say that, right? You work for YouTube.
Well, now I was playing that out in my head a little bit.
It's on video, Lance.
I was trying to be honest.
The aggregator.
All right, thank you. Let's open it up for questions. Anyone?
Why the aggregator? Everybody.
In my perspective, it's the aggregator because they can speak our overall language that the advertiser wants to hear, whereas the content producer thinks more about the content they're actually creating, and there's more to it than just the content, obviously. How are we going to reach the audience? How are we going to distribute it? How are we going to activate it? That's usually what the aggregator would get more involved in.
I think by virtue of the fact that you're the aggregator has access to the content producer, so you're not getting one without the other. The aggregator is going to spend a lot of time with the content producers on your behalf, and I think probably winnows down your world of meeting multiple content producers and finding one source to streamline that.
Yeah, it's a matter of scale and streamlining the process.
And also having that familiarity with the audience that the content producer may not have. They deliver great content, but being able to, as everyone's pointed out, really scale that and turn to someone who's an expert at who they reach is invaluable.
So that is saying that distribution is more important than the content.
The question was, so you're saying distribution is actually more important than the content?
No.
Yeah.
But it's you want to streamline you just want to streamline the relationship.
Right.
You would get very involved with the
In
content.
streamlining, you create bottlenecks. It's been Hollywood all over again. Problem with Hollywood is the aggregators in Hollywood create decision-making bottlenecks about creative, and that's why it keeps down a lot of innovative creative. So on the creative end, on the bottleneck is not something we're looking forward to having created for us, again, by it being easy to go to aggregators who then make decisions on content.
Right. I mean, I think quality is more important than distribution, and that if you...
Sorry, just for the, I'm not going to repeat everything, but the comment was, by going through the distribution outlet, do you not create bottlenecks?
I think quality is the single most important. If it's not a good piece of content, it doesn't matter if you send it to 8 million people. I think once you have made that decision that this is a solid piece of content, then I do think you need to speak to the audience in some way. And the aggregator, to me, is the best person to go to get that intelligence about the audience.
Your question presumes that if you go to an aggregator, you don't get to pick the content.
Yeah.
And you do. If you go to YouTube, you can pick 3,000 different YouTube shows, and they can facilitate everything for you, opposed to trying to go to the shows and serve ads onto their
the answer I was going to give is I'm fairly fortunate to work at this distributor aggregator that has hundreds of people that think about, there are groups, there are jobs assigned the task of aggregating those content producers, but working with them to build something for the client or for the advertiser. So I don't see it like Hollywood. I don't think you're being forced into a pigeonhole. They are working very, very hard to make sure that you're getting the experience you want. And in fact, we have two kinds of clients that come in. We have those that say, I'm really interested in these 10 publishers or creators I want to work with, and others that are saying, help me build the bundle of who really makes sense for me. And then there's still going to be client approval through all that process. So,
I believe we're out of time. Question?
Follow up on that, the aggregator conversation. Other than YouTube, which would each of you say are the top 5 aggregators that would be good for independent producer types?
The question was, what are the top 5 great alternatives or additional aggregation distribution sites aside from YouTube?
I know we turn a lot to Yahoo, Fremantle. Actually, they wouldn't be an aggregator. Sorry, DBG, Break Media.
you're putting a specific video spin on it too.
Yeah, I'm
so,
putting it from a
I would
content
say
video spin from
Facebook, right? Twitter. I think that now that they're evolving, again with this scale and ability to look. I'm sure you guys have Facebook sections or pages, right? Right. So access again to lots of folks in the same way you might get video on YouTube. You're going to get access to lots of people that have pages on Facebook that can be brought together for you as well across a campaign.
The other two are Revision 3 and My Damn Channel. Sorry.
And I also think, Ash did not pay me to say this, but I do think that Watch Mojo
Yeah.
also, for us, was a great aggregator as well.
I was going to say that up front, but I thought he gave me a look like,
Yeah, don't plug
The
me.
check's in the mail, guys. I would love to keep this up.
I've got a couple more. LiveRail, DAP TV, Spot Exchange, and Freewheel. They're video ad servers that have also morphed into video exchanges that have marketplaces for advertisers to place pre-rolls in front of your content.
Big fan of Adapt TV.
So thank you all for attending the panel. Thank you very much, guys. Many more questions, but I believe we're competing with lunch now, and we know who wins that one.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
guys.